Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm going to continue with the second chapter for this book 0 to 1. I think in the last audio I did have music which was a bit high. I apologize for that. Maybe I'll redo that chapter again. So now let's begin. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel and with Blake Masters. So yeah, let's get on with the not taking. Yes. The first chapter is just a rehash. I think what he's trying to say is that the important question to develop early in life is that what important truth do very few people agree with you on. I think it's not something which comes very easily. We're not really, trained to think in that way. Generally, consensus is what people look for. The future of progress and thinking that future progress is, we assume it's automatic, but it is not. And then it comes to what is like startup thinking, and startups have to rethink ideas from scratch. And now we have this chapter called chapter party like it's 1999. So let's just take some few things. So he's actually inverting the question over here. So if you can't find the answer to what people are do not agree with you, so he's saying start with the what does everybody agree on. Okay. He's also going to say that madness is rare in individuals, but common in groups. So like I think one point he's making here is that in 90s, so generally companies don't exist to make loss, right? But in the 1990s, and I think it's also reminiscent in some of the companies today, that companies don't exist to make a profit. They were like page views and things like that. And another thing interesting, that beliefs appear to be delusional or wrong only in retrospection. So like a bubble, like for example, currently Kathy Woods, she's been talking of companies which she's holding and now 80%. So the bubble can only be thought of it much later. Like you cannot think about it when you are at that point of time. So he's saying that knowing the past is, a good sense to understand about this. So he's talking about the 1990s. So even not many of us would have a great deal of understanding. For example, in the 1990s, I was in college and things like that. Not really so much interested in the economic, but I can say, like in terms of life, a lot more modest in compared to today's standards. Internet was just probably, not so. I don't remember so much. But it's probably based in the US, and so he's talking about like there was a lot of euphoria. The Berlin Wall came down, and President Bush, was around, and then there was this huge mania from the 1998 to 2000. I have a faint recollection over here because I think I've just started to just read about getting more interested about investing in the late 90s, and there was this crazy IT boom, and I think that's what he's talking about. Dot-com mania was intense but short, 18 months. So in 18 months you could see that they were like crazily, especially this in India, we just probably it was there, but not like anything what we saw in the US. And there was a PayPal mania he's talking about. So essentially these are giving instances of how people crazily would people would value things essentially. So PayPal, in the sense, he's actually was a founder running over there, and he giving an instance of where they would pay $10 for new customers and $10 for referrals, and I realized that these kind of things won't be a great path to profitability. And then he's talking about the lessons learned. So there was a crazy euphoria at those times, and new companies were being launched. And I think when people talk about this era, they talk about referring to Charles Mackay, Delusion of Crowds, something like that. And so the question why he's saying party like in '99 song from Prince is saying because they say that 2000 party over, oops, out of time. So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999. Okay, interesting. So he's been giving is a reference to Nasdaq. So it peaked at a level of 5,050, and in the next 2 years or so it fell by almost 80%. Like for an index to drop 80% is like some big thing. And then it probably clears up a lot of industry. And so he's saying that in the aftermath there were 4 key lessons that were learned. I think this is quite important, interesting for us. So one is that make key lessons from the .com crash. Okay, now let's go through them. Okay, make incremental advances. Okay, stay lean and flexible. I'll discuss each one just one step, just make the notes. Lean and flexible, improve on the competition, focus on product, not sales. Okay, interesting. Now make incremental advances of exactly, basically grand visions inflated the bubble. We're saying I probably mean that it's great to have super ideal goals, like say you may want to be the biggest product hit in your getting whatever business or line you're thinking on, and but also think in small steps. Stay lean and flexible. Lean in sense, obviously, I think it goes in very basic principles that obviously, but we tend to have grand visions for our plans, and we tend to take, I want to take, improve on competition, don't create a new market prematurely, okay? And focus on product. A product requires advertising, salespeople to sell it is not good enough. It should sell on its own, I must. This is the product, okay? These lessons have become dogma in the startup world, and yet opposite principles are probably more correct. Okay, so now what are the opposite principles? Now let's read. Like you said, Peter Thiel is always going to surprise you. Opposites are also more correct. It probably has worked for, you see, it's better to risk boldness than triviality. I tend to be somewhere in between. It's better to risk boldness than triviality. A bad plan is better than no plan. Competitive markets destroy profits. Actually, this is one of the points where he's actually very known for. I think sales matters just as much as product. I would tend to agree on this too. You know, a lot of people, they keep calling you, and then by one fine day you just give up. And okay, it's true that there was a bubble in technology. So he's saying that you can't escape the madness of crowds by dogmatically rejecting them. Instead, ask yourself how much of what you know about business is shaped by mistaken reactions to past mistakes. The most contrarian thinking of all is not to oppose the crowd, but to think for yourself. So he's saying, think for yourself. It's giving us just a background over here as to in the 90s what happened. Like I think there would be people from all kinds of just giving some ideas. But these each one of these opposites can resonate with a lot more people, and I think that's what probably he has in mind here. Okay, so I think it's a short lesson today, and I'll wrap it up. Maybe hopefully we'll pick up the second one soon. Thanks for staying by. This is the book 0 to 1. Bye.